Hello, welcome to my channel. If you're new and if you're not, welcome back. My name is Anna Marie and I spent the majority of this year on a book buying ban. That ban finally ended back in June and I got very excited and bought myself quite a few new books. So I've already uploaded 2 videos featuring some of the books that I've bought, and I'm going to go through the last cluster of books that I bought over the course of June, July, and into August. Today I have a real variety of books to go through. There's some sci-fi, some historical fiction, some contemporary, and even a poetry translation. So without further ado, let's get into the books. But first, coffee, always. So first we have The Three-Body Problem by Cixin Liu. I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce this author's name, so I apologize. I have read one other book by this author, Ball Lightning, last summer, and I really enjoyed it. I'm not typically someone who reaches for sci-fi, although that is a genre I'm trying to explore more because it really intrigues me, and I do tend to enjoy it when I do get caught up in a book. So Ball Lightning was definitely more science focused than fiction, I guess is a way that you could say it. I found it to be a blur between magical realism and science fiction with a whole lot of physics thrown into it, whereas this one seems to be more your traditional sci-fi. It's described here on the back as the War of the Worlds for the 21st century, packed with a sense of wonder. So I'm obviously really excited to get to this one. I've heard good things about it. I've seen it around a lot, and I think it's been on my Goodreads TBR wish list for 2-ish years or so. So I'm excited to finally have it in my collection. Next is a book that is much more within my typical reading habits, and that is The Wolf and the Woodsman by Reid. Now, this is one that is really doing the rounds. It was only released recently, and it is a debut by the author, and it sounds so intriguing. It is inspired by Hungarian history and Jewish mythology, and it follows a woman who is sacrificed by her village. She is the outcast in that town, and when the king's men come looking for a blood sacrifice, they offer her up. But then when our protagonist is traveling to become the king's blood sacrifice, her and the crew of men, the Woodsmen, are attacked by monsters in the forest. And the only 2 to survive are her and the captain, who is a one-eyed grouch, apparently. And are we at all surprised that I picked this up? Because there seems to be some enemies to lovers in here. It says that their mutual loathing slowly turns to affection, bound by a shared history of alienation and oppression. However, trust can easily turn to betrayal. This is one that is definitely very high up there on my TBR pile. Next, I have a voice crack. I have Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell by Susanna Clarke, and I have had this one on my wish list for literal years, and I never realized quite how chunky it is. I don't know if I'm the only one who is oblivious to how big of a book, and the font is quite small. So that's slightly intimidating when I opened up my parcel that came in the mail and I saw the size of this. However, I am excited for it. That's apparently the only descriptive word that I know. This is one that has been around for a while now, and just reading from the blurb on the back, it's set during the midst of the Napoleonic Wars in 1806, when most people believe magic to have long disappeared from England, until the reclusive Mr. Norrell reveals his powers and becomes an overnight celebrity. Yet the cautious, fussy Norrell is challenged by the emergence of another magician, the brilliant novice Jonathan Strange. Young, handsome, and daring, Strange is the very opposite of Norrell. He becomes Norrell's student, and they join forces in the war against France. But Strange is increasingly drawn to the wildest, most perilous forms of magic, straining his partnership with Norrell and putting at risk everything he holds dear. So this was Clarke's debut novel, and I haven't read Pure Nessie, but again, heard such great things about it. I feel as if perhaps I might have started with that one because it seems a wee bit easier to get through than this book, which is 1,000 pages, 850. So we will see how I get on with Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. I have a feeling that I'm going to hold off reading this one right away because just the size of it, this is giving me vibes that I want to be curled up on the couch with a hot cup of tea in the autumn and just find myself lost in this story when the weather kind of starts to turn to something a little bit cooler. So we'll see when I pick this up, but really happy to finally have my hands on it. Next, I picked up Lent by Jo Walton. Now, I have already read one other book by Jo Walton, and that was Among Others. That is quite a different novel compared to this one here. Among Others was a coming-of-age story set in Wales, if I recall correctly, and had a lot of magical realism woven throughout the plot. Lent is set in 15th century Florence and follows a young monk who can see demons and cast them away and is front row and center to a lot of other miracles. But apparently he is not who or what he thinks, and he will discover the truth about himself at the most startlingly possible time. And this will be only the beginning of his many lives. So it sounds really interesting. Also, I know just from what I've read by this author before that I really adored her writing, and I'm looking forward to getting caught up in this story here. Another book that has been on my wish list for literal years now is Midwinter Break by MacLaverty. Now, I first read this author back in my university days. I read Cal by him in a Celtic literatures course, and I wholeheartedly agree with the claim that he is one of the best living Irish authors. There was a point where I was rereading Cal every single year, and I think I must have reread it at least half a dozen times now, and I've had Midwinter Break on my wish list since I first read Cal. So I'm very excited to finally have picked it up. So in Midwinter Break, we follow a retired couple who go on, you guessed it, a midwinter break. Jerry and Stella are originally from Ireland. They're currently living in Scotland, and they go on a little holiday to Amsterdam. And during those 4 days while they are away, we apparently witness their relationship fracturing beneath the surface and watch as they struggle to save themselves. From my understanding, there will be a little bit of jumping back in time to some of their memories that they have of troubled times in Ireland when things began to fall apart. This is another one that I'm likely to hold off on reading until closer to the end of fall, beginning of winter, just because I am a bit of a mood reader, and there is something so comforting about reading a story during the same season as what you're experiencing, and it really helps me become completely engrossed in what I'm reading. So I'm really looking forward to this one, and I'm excited to finally have my hands on it, and it's just a short, quick book, 200 pages. I know Cal never takes me that long to go through, so I'm really excited to cozy up on some winter evening in the future with this one here. And finally, I picked up Beowulf by Maria Dahvana Headley, or Headley. I'm not entirely sure, and I apologize in advance. This will actually be the first translation of Beowulf that I read. Although I took quite a few literature courses at university, it wasn't something I majored in. Therefore, I somehow managed to miss the initiation of having to read Beowulf in an academic setting, and I almost feel as if it's something that I really missed out on. So when I saw that this was getting published as the 21st century translation, I was so excited and I knew I wanted to read it. And also look at this cover, it's so beautiful. I'm really excited to have this one. If you're not aware, Beowulf is about a man who seeks to prove himself as a hero, a monster who seeks silence in his territory, a warrior who seeks to avenge her murdered son, and a dragon who ends it all. I'm really excited to see what promised new context that Maria has brought to this one. All right, we have finally reached the end of the utterly absurd amount of books that I managed to acquire over a quite small period of time. However, if you have watched the other videos, and I'm sure you've been able to pick it up in this video here, these are all books that I am so genuinely excited to finally have in my collection. I think because I went a long period of time where I didn't let myself just buy books willy-nilly, I really went through my Goodreads and my StoryGraph wish lists with a fine-tooth comb to identify those books I really wanted to read, and I am so happy that those are the ones I picked up, as well as a few new releases that greatly excited me. As ever, thank you so much for watching. Let me know down in the comments below if you have read any of these books or if they're also on your TBR, and I will be back soon with another video. Bye for now.